Amen. Baruch Adonai Yamevorach. Baruch Adonai Yamevorach Le'olam. Good morning, everyone. Shavua Tov. This week is the busiest week on the Jewish calendar, getting ready for Pesach. There was a great Hasidic rabbi. His name is Rabbi Futafas. He was lived during the times of communism in Russia, and he was imprisoned in the gulags in Siberia. And he spent about 10 years there, and then he ultimately was released, and he came to Israel. And he told a lot of stories about his experiences in the Russian prison. And he says one time he was sitting with other prisoners, and they were all bemoaning their life. And they said, this one said, you know, I was a general. I used to be a general in the Russian army, and look at me now, I'm in prison. The other guy said, I had a big factory, and I had a big this. I had a big farm. Everyone was talking about that prior life. And then they turned to him, and he said, what about you? He said, I'm still doing the same thing I always did. They said, what do you mean? He said, when I was a free person, my primary occupation was I was a servant of Hashem, an Eved Hashem. And now, in prison, I continue to be a servant of Hashem. I have the same occupation. When we come to Pesach, we attain our freedom, but what do we become? Servants of Hashem. Instead of servants to Pharaoh, servants to Hashem. The question is, what did we accomplish? We substituted one servitude for another servitude. Furthermore, this holiday and the prayers, we're going to say is Zman Cherotenu, the time of our freedom. How can we say it's the time of freedom when we receive the Torah with 613 commandments? As a matter of fact, it's very interesting that when you think about the other three major festivals, when you get ready for the first night of Sukkah, what do you have to do? You have to build a Sukkah. Yeah, it takes a few hours, but it's not, back-breaking work. It's not like there's one mitzvah to eat in a Sukkah on the first night of Sukkah. Shavuos, you have to have some cheesecake, not very intense. For Pesach, there's hundreds of laws and details, and so many commandments that we have to fulfill on the night of Pesach, the matzah and the maror and the rabbinic commandments like the wine and the customs. And if it's the holiday of freedom, why is there so much labor involved? Why is there so many laws when it comes to this holiday? If it's freedom, we should just take it easy. So one answer is that, imagine kids that were playing ball on a rooftop, having a soccer game on a roof of a building, and there was no fence around the building. So they could play the game, but it's really dangerous, and they can't really enjoy the game because they're always worried that they're going to, God forbid, fall over the edge of the building. But if you put up a fence around the building, now they can play freely. They have nothing to fear. The same thing with life. We think that life is played best when there's no boundaries. We can do whatever we want. But the truth is, then there's all sorts of dangers and pitfalls when we live our lives that way. Think about a kid who grew up in a home with no rules. Parents said, whatever you want goes. Versus a kid who grew up in a home with discipline, with regiment, with strict guidelines of how to live. The child who grew up in the home that there were no boundaries, no rules, no guidelines, no disciplines, that kid's in for a life of a lot of crises and turmoil and pain and suffering. The kid who grew up with boundaries, with guidelines, that kid's going to have a much happier, more productive, fulfilling life. So on a glance, we say, what do we need all these laws that God gave us? But it's precisely these disciplines and these laws of the Torah that give us the truest freedom in our lives. But there's a second perspective to this. And that is that, in Florida, we're called the Sunshine State. We have more sun than any other state, perhaps, right? So what do they do? So in Israel, this is very popular, and in Florida as well, they have something called solar panels, right? The sun is spilling out, but if you don't have a vessel, a solar panel, to capture it, then it doesn't come into your home and illuminate your home. And what the solar panels do is they capture the light and they preserve it for dark days and to light up your house and at night when it's dark, because the solar panels capture all the light. So what are the solar panels of Judaism? The mitzvahs, the commandments. Every commandment is a solar panel. On the night of Pesach, there is so much light. You may look out the window at the night of Seder, it looks dark outside, but you should know it's the brightest night of the year. It's called the night of guarding. Hashem is passing over the Jewish homes. It is the night that it says, V'layla kayom ya'ir, the night will shine like the daytime. It's the brightest light. And because there's so much light on that night, we want to capture all that light. So we do more mitzvahs. Every mitzvah is another solar panel that captures the light, holds on to it and preserves it, and then we could use that spiritual electricity to light up our lives throughout the whole year. And that's why the night of Pesach, we do more mitzvahs than any other night at the Seder. And we want to do it meticulously and properly because we want to capture all the revelation that happened 3,331 years ago when God came into Egypt to redeem the Jews, which is reenacted and re-experienced every year on the anniversary of that day. And what is the light primarily? It's the light of faith. It says that the matzah in Kabbalah, it says that matzah is michla de memnusa, the bread of faith. Why? Because when the Jews left Egypt with the matzah on their back, God says, I remember your faith. You followed me into a barren wasteland with nothing but matzah. So when we eat the matzah, we're getting faith for the night of Pesach and for the entire year. And that's the light, the primary light that is shining on the night of Pesach, the night of faith. And when we live with a life of faith, we live with a light of joy and meaning and purpose. Just to repeat the story I said yesterday about the community didn't have any rain for a long period of time. So the rabbi said it's going to be a fast day, and everyone should come, and we're going to come to the city square like they used to do in the olden times, and we're going to pray for rain. So the whole community, everyone closed their shops, and everyone came out to pray, and the rabbi gets up at the podium, he looks out, he says, ladies and gentlemen, everyone could go home. And he said, what do you mean? We came to pray for rain. He said, it's a waste of time. We're not going to get any rain. He said, what do you mean, Rabbi? You're supposed to be the man of faith. You know, what do you mean we're not going to get any rain? We came to pray for rain. He said, I'm telling you, we're not going to get any rain. He says, why not? Because he says, because you don't believe in the power of your prayers. He says, what do you mean we don't believe? We came here. He says, I'm looking out, I see thousands of people, and not one person brought an umbrella with them. So that's the idea of faith. The idea of faith is to act and live your life with faith. And this is the light that shines on the night of Pesach. So the more mitzvahs we do and the more properly we observe them, by going to a proper Seder and eating the proper matzahs and wine and maror and telling the story, the more light we will retain for the entire year to have a year of faith.